Welcome to the Rare Species Fund. Over the next few minutes, we will journey behind the scenes with one of the nation's premier wildlife preserves and get a glimpse of the incredible work being done by this internationally recognized conservation organization.
There's something unique about being in the presence of tigers and other beautiful creations of nature. It is an experience that can transform the way you see yourself and the world around you forever.
There it is. Right on the money. What's the LCD say? LCD 41. Okay. Back. That is 41. Beautiful. Right out the window. Just like
Earth, an oasis of life adrift in the cosmos. As we float through the vastness of space, we may discover our tiny blue planet is really quite remarkable. As the forces of nature shape our planet, the wind and the rain, so too do they provide life-sustaining resources. From the most simple organisms to incredibly complex species. The interconnected web of life is sustained by a delicate balance. One fluid system. Species depend on each other for survival. As the human population expands, we have an ever greater effect on the natural world. Along with our human intelligence and technological advances comes a responsibility to not only conquer and exploit the natural world, but to care for and cultivate the diversity of life on this planet. Meet Dr. Bhagavan Ansel, founder and director of the Rare Species Fund.
The Rare Species Fund, the RSF, is a grassroots organization that provides financial support and practical training to in situ wildlife conservation initiatives. This direct-to-end user approach places the RSF among the world's most effective conservation agencies.
The Rare Species Fund contributes to those efforts that have shown themselves to be the most viable in real-world conservation of wild species populations.
By putting essential money and equipment directly into the hands of people implementing the programs, the RSF ensures the greatest value for every dollar spent.
For more than 3 decades, the conservation work of the Rare Species Fund has been financially supported by the animal ambassadors of their sister organization, T.I.G.E.R.S.
The Institute for Greatly Endangered and Rare Species is a unique 50-acre wildlife preserve in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Founded in 1982, the preserve and its satellites preservation stations have received upwards of 40 million guests who have had the unique and transformative experience of up-close encounters with some of the world's most endangered species.
The T.I.G.E.R.S Preserve offers visitors a unique way in which to view and experience wildlife. The staff of T.I.G.E.R.S and the Rare Species Fund view conservation as a 2-stage process. Before you can successfully save animals in the wild, you must get people to care about them.
Most people don't have a connection to wildlife, but then when they come to the T.I.G.E.R.S Preserve here, they get to meet animal ambassadors like Kriya. They get to meet them up close and uncaged, and that personal connection helps to change their minds and hearts.
By meeting these animal ambassadors up close and in person, not only do millions of people go out into the world with a renewed passion for saving Earth's wild places, they've helped supply the Rare Species Fund with the monetary resources necessary to do so.
In India today, there are millions of people without access to electricity. That means they are literally in the dark every single night. Some of these people have built villages right on the edge of the tiger preserve. They're going into the tiger preserve in order to get fuel for light at night. This is a huge issue because hundreds of people are being killed by tigers every single year. So what we are coming up with is a new plan to get solar-powered rechargeable lanterns into those villages so that we can stop people from going into the tiger preserve. We'll save the tiger and save the people. We have already lit an entire village, and our hope is to light every single village outside of every tiger preserve.
In South Africa, the Rare Species Fund partnered with Endangered Wildlife Trust. This group works with predator conflict avoidance, with problem animals being relocated. They also work extensively by taking dogs and placing the dogs on farms and into homes where predator conflict is happening. The work that these dogs do of just keeping the predators at bay has changed many of these farmers' opinion and outlook on how to manage the predators like cheetahs, leopards, wild dogs, and hyenas.
Thank you. I myself and the Endangered Wildlife Trust really appreciate the support of the Rare Species Fund and the Tigers Preserve.
Predator Conservation Trust. The RSF supports the Niassa Carnivore Project, conducted by the PCT inside the Niassa National Reserve, located in northern Mozambique on the border with Tanzania, one of the largest and least developed places in Africa. Despite decades of war and neglect, this extensive wilderness has survived largely intact and is home to the large concentrations of African lions, African wild dogs, leopards, spotted hyenas. With assistance from the RSF, the Niassa Reserve provides protection for these precious natural wild resources via educational programs, political outreach, and radio tracking of individual animals.
Orangutan Foundation International was founded by Dr. Birute Mary Gildecost in 1986. Orangutan Foundation International operates Camp Leakey, an orangutan research area within Tanjung Puting National Park, and the Orangutan Care Center is home to 330 displaced orangutans. By protecting orangutans, these organizations simultaneously protect the habitats of many other endangered species. The RSF is invested in the planting of trees to replenish the rainforest located in central Indonesian Borneo as part of the OFI Forestry Restoration Program.
The orangutan conservation that we're working on with the Orangutan Foundation International was an incredible experience. The environmental reforestation we've been working on helps there a lot. There are also things that needed a lot of work. There were ex-captive sun bears there that needed to be reintroduced. We got radio collars for those bears, portable fencing, and created an entire new way to create new outdoor habitat so that those bears could move back into the wild and thrive. The same thing we've done for many of the orangutans, who are the real full-time work of the Orangutan Foundation International.
Founded in 1996, the Small Wildcat Conservation Foundation works to ensure the survival of small cats and their natural habitats worldwide. The foundation works with local partners in such regions as the Andes, China, Sumatra, and Tibet to identify and mitigate threats to the world's small wild cats, such as the Javan fishing cat and the rare seen desert-dwelling cat. These and the other rare cats are listed as vulnerable and critically endangered on the red list of the IUCN. ISF funds support the IUCN's effort to protect the world's smallest endangered cats.
Most of the science that I do, most of the science that I publish, comes from answering the conservation question. What do we need to do to reduce the threats?
To date, the Rare Species Fund has provided more than $1 million to wildlife conservation projects around the world. Many sponsored projects receive tens of thousands of dollars in support. Key RSF projects have received contributions of more than $100,000, helping to protect endangered wildlife and the places they come from.
In Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, we're home to more than 100 endangered animals. We receive more than 3 million visitors annually, and we provide the world's greatest hands-on, educational, interactive wildlife experience. In Carver, Massachusetts, we produce the Tale of the Tiger, a 30-year-old wildlife event with the world's greatest variety of tigers. In Miami, Florida, we operate daily shows at Jungle Island Wildlife Educational Park. It's a park that has an incredible variety of wild animals and a full, fun day of family adventure. Rare Species Fund establishes and maintains environments for both captive and wild elephants. Rare Species Fund is working with the Elephants of Africa Rescue Society, T.I.G.E.R.S, and with elephant programs abroad. We're partnered with International Elephant Foundation and with Save the Elephants, which are both doing phenomenal work helping to save elephants throughout Africa and other areas in the wild. In Zimbabwe, we're working with lion, leopard, and cheetah conservation with Wild Crew. RSF is helping leopard and cheetah relocation in the Montebello World Heritage Site. The RSF is also working directly with the Victoria Falls Anti-Poaching Unit to preserve and secure wildlife within the Zambezi National Park.
Yes, this type of it is invaluable to our operations, and thank you very much.
Yeah, pleasure. The Rare Species Fund has adopted and cares for 7 depredation eagles from Tanzania. Raptor research and conservation is done through RSF contributions to the Raptor Research Foundation.
In South Africa, cheetah conservation and public education is being done with the Cheetah Outreach Group. Black-footed cat research and relocation is happening with the Black-footed Cat Working Group. Black-footed cat reproduction and public education is also happening with the Cat Conservation Trust. In Namibia, we're helping cheetah conservation with the Cheetah Conservation Fund.
Thank you for the work you do to help us save cheetahs.
In Botswana, the RSF is helping to conserve the nation's only viable rhino population by contributing to the Kama Rhino Preserve.
The RSF is contributing to the world's largest system of marine parks through its support of the Australian Marine Conservation Society. By providing funding to the Antarctic and Southern Oceans Coalition, the RSF is helping to study and protect Antarctica's Ross Sea.
In South America, we're working on jaguar conservation, both by working directly with local farmers and by interacting with indigenous tribesmen through a project established by the Smithsonian Institution. The Andean mountain cat conservation with Dr. Jim Sanderson is another project that we're very passionate about in Chile, South America. In Thailand, we worked with tiger conservation in the Khao Yai National Park. We did this with the late Dr. Joe Gale Howard and the Smithsonian Institution. We worked by getting men that live in the area to have a much better idea of what anti-poaching patrols were, helping to supply those guys with equipment and helping to supply training for these same people to recognize what are the signs of poaching. All of this put together made them be able to prevent poaching and do it much more precisely. Asian fishing cat conservation with Fishing Cat Research and Conservation Project in Thailand also has been a favorite of ours. We've lived with many fish cats at the Rare Species Fund Tigers Preserve. Fishing cats are an incredible species, and protecting them along with the waterways of Southeast Asia has become an important project for us.
In addition to the conservation work abroad, the Rare Species Fund also contributes significant effort and resources to projects closer to home. Over the past decade, the RSF has generated over $100,000 to care for unwanted domestic animals through the Humane Society. Our recent partnership with the Myrtle Beach Marathon has proven to be a great success in introducing people to environmental issues while at the same time providing tens of thousands of dollars to support wildlife conservation projects.
The Rare Species Fund, the RSF, was established in 1982 to provide financial support to on-site wildlife conservation projects and wildlife education programs around the globe. The RSF derives its funding from the Institute of Greatly Endangered and Rare Species, or T.I.G.E.R.S, and from underwriting by philanthropic agencies.
The Rare Species Fund reaches out through every possible means to increase public awareness of wildlife conservation. For nearly 3 decades, Rare Species Fund has hosted international wildlife tours, created documentary films shot on location, published acclaimed books of animal friendship for children, and prize-winning wildlife photography.
Every year, the Rare Species Fund conducts safaris to Africa. We take people that we meet throughout the world and bring them into the wild bush. Going into wild Africa gives people the opportunity to see the world as it once was. It inspires people and gets them to think about things in a different way. Every safari we take to Africa is a green safari. We plant speckboom trees in devastated land areas. These trees that we plant give people there jobs to have them plant those trees. These trees create new habitat and allow new areas to flourish and become filled with wildlife themselves. Journeying to Africa has an incredible magical spell that can give people an opportunity and an experience like nothing else on Earth.
An important goal of the Rare Species Fund is to responsibly maintain a viable population of captive wildlife, including the tiger, through the implementation of scientifically based breeding programs. The RSF is working on the Tiger Genome Project in collaboration with the Species Survival Trust, SST, and the Genetics Laboratory of Texas A&M University. The Rare Species Fund also works closely with policymakers to establish environmentally sound legislation concerning wildlife. Animal ambassadors from the Tigers Preserve have met members of Congress during a number of specifically convened meetings within the U.S. Capitol building. Here we see Dr. Antle testifying before a congressional subcommittee about the value of conservation. Working directly with Congressman Henry Brown, the RSF helped with the establishment of a new semi-postal wildlife stamp, which has generated millions of dollars for conservation projects without the use of taxpayer money.
Yesterday, the White House contacted my office to inform me that the President had signed into law H.R. 1454, the Multinational Species Conservation Fund Semi-Postal Stamp Act of 2010. As I've shared with you many times, this couldn't have been possible without the help of you and your team from Tigers and the Rare Species Fund. Whether by traveling here to Washington, D.C. back in May to testify on the bill before the House Committee on Natural Resources, or by most recently returning with your animal ambassadors to talk about the value of private conservation, the work you've done was essential to our success.
The Rare Species Fund is proud to be on the Conservation Council of the International Conservation Caucus Foundation and has participated in such events as the U.S. Presidential Inauguration Gala and the inception of the Conservation Council of Nations.
Today, there are 3,000 tigers left in the world. Tigers may likely go extinct in less than 20 years. We hope policymakers will recognize the contributions made by private wildlife preserves. Private facilities such as Tigers in Myrtle Beach perform functions which most public zoos cannot. In particular, they preserve genetic diversity by breeding rare varieties of tigers. These beautiful animals in turn stimulate public support for conservation efforts.
For the past 3 decades, my great joy has been watching the organizations that we support grow and blossom. And there's a direct connection between their success and the memorable interactions that happen between the visitors at Tigers Preserve and our resident wildlife. There's something unique about being in the presence of tigers and other beautiful creations of nature. It's an experience that can transform the way you see yourself and the world around you.
The Rare Species Fund is able to conduct its international conservation projects as a direct result of educational programs conducted at the Tigers Preserve. These programs are also changing the world's hearts and minds about wildlife, one guest at a time.
My staff and I invite you to come visit us in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Discover for yourself the excitement of helping to preserve these magnificent animals for generations to come.